What up, what up, what up? Welcome in to Agreeing with Envy Quick Hit Edition. This is your boy Will Weir. I am checking in with my main man, Adam Taylor. And we are here today to talk a little bit about Blake Griffin and the possible return to the Boston Celtics. As noted by our guy over at Celtics blog, Bobby Manning, last week, reiterated recently by Mark Stein in his newsletter. There's interest in Blake Griffin coming back to Boston. However, he may want to look for a West Coast option. Adam, let's start with just from the Celtics point of view, how you feel about Blake Griffin back in green.
Bus one, boys, for another year, baby. I'm all the way in. I think that, if you look at what Blake brought to the team last season, he didn't really produce like high numbers on court, but he was a veteran in the locker room. He was a feel-good factor. Vibes were immaculate. I'm all the way in on keeping Blake Griffin around for another season. Obviously, as you said, he may look at a West Coast team. His family's out west, may want to be closer to home. But you have an opportunity to win a championship with the Celtics this season. There's no guarantee that any other team that's challenging for a championship is going to want what Blake brings. I'm more than happy. Run it back. Bus one, boys, for another year. Give me the vibes.
Yeah, I mean, Blake is a vibe, right? That is the best way to kind of talk about Blake Griffin. And, I think what you talked about with, on the court, he played 41 games, 4.1 points, 3.8 rebounds, 1.5 assists, but that's not really what mattered as much, right? He was a guy that he knew his role. And I think, for all the criticisms, which we did throw at one Joe Mazzulla throughout the year, I really like the way he deployed Blake Griffin, where it was, hey, man, save what you got because I know I'm going to need it when I need it, but I don't need you out here for maybe 5 minutes here, maybe a few minutes here. Now, sit back, chill. We got everybody healthy tonight. You ain't getting any run, but we're going to rest Al. Maybe Rob was still out early in the season, and it was, yo, Blake, gear up. Take the next 2 days to get ready, start getting your training ready, get it in the right mode, and you're starting tonight. And I really enjoyed how Blake Griffin kind of took to that, right? And I think he performed honestly better than I thought he was. When we made the signing, I was like, whatever, it's gonna be fun to just say, hey, we had Blake Griffin for a year. But I thought he actually made real contributions when he had the opportunity to do so. So I'm with you that I'm all for bringing back Blake Griffin. And I think the most underrated part, and I'm struggling right now to remember where this report came out. I want to say it might have been through The Athletic, but I'm not positive, is they talked about about midway through the season that Mazzulla, Al Horford, and Blake had kind of formed a triumvirate behind the scenes, right? A council, if you will. And, they're all the same age. So it's nice to have these guys that are the same age that are able to kind of vibe with one another and then be able to connect with that younger core of the Celtics. So I think bringing Blake Griffin back, if he can do it and if he's willing, I think for me, that's a no-brainer. Yes.
I think the only question you're going to have to answer, and one that Blake Griffin will certainly ask, now there's another body in front of him in that rotation, right? Like last season, it was already tough. Blake was 41 games. He did sit out a bunch. And then the minutes he did get predominantly were garbage time towards the end of the year. You add Porzingis into that. And now all of a sudden, is Blake even going to see the floor? There's one thing coming in to be a gap plugger, as we'd call it. That's kind of how they put word.
I like that. I haven't heard that before. A gap plugger, but I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Going in there just to plug those gaps, fill those holes where we need them. But now all of a sudden, you're going to be even further back in that rotation. Does Blake coming back mean that you move on from Luke Cornett? If you do, is that worth it considering how Luke performed last season? Although Luke is, I think he's non-guaranteed or partially guaranteed coming into
I think there's
the
a
season.
date coming up that will guarantee is. I don't know what that is, but I think they could. I mean, you don't think that bringing? I mean, because here's the thing. Yes, they brought in Kristaps, but we lost Grant Williams as well, right? So bringing him in, I think there's a world in which you bring Luke and Blake back, and then you still have at least one more roster spot that that you're trying to sort out, before you get to the start of the season. And I think right now, knowing what we know with Rob Williams' injury history, with Al Horford's age, with Kristaps Porzingis' injury history, like you need more reinforcements on that front line, right? And if Blake's comfortable and you feel good about what he can give you in those, in those gap plug moments, it's hard to see a downside. And I think for me, I would like to see them bring all those Bus One boys back, right? Bring at least Luke and bring back Blake together. I think the two of them are comfortable, and I think sometimes that's a forgotten element of what it means to succeed in the NBA, is that element of comfortability, right? I saw a clip the other day, and it was back when the Celtics had Shaq, right? And I'm going way back in the vault here, but they made the trade of Kendrick Perkins for Jeff Green, and Perk for Jeff Green in a vacuum. Yeah, that's a win, especially, when you think about their age at the time. Like, that was a talent win. But what it took away was that comfortability, that continuity that Perk had. And, Shaq wasn't able to stay healthy, and ultimately the move just didn't work out for a bunch of reasons. But I thought that was always, a reason why it was kind of a skeptical trade to begin with, because you were taking away that. And so I think with Luke and Blake on a much lower level, there is a comfortability, there is a continuity to them with the bench, to them with their role on the team. And I think, and you need those guys when you're on a championship run. You're going to play 82 games. You need guys that kind of know their role and are cool with their role and will thrive in their role.
I mean, if you're moving Al Horford down to the 4, predominantly playing him in that starting 5 along with Porzingis, then yeah, I can see that being the case where you kind of plug Grant into what Grant Williams' role would have been, but in the starting lineup, and then you ask Blake to continue in the position, in the role he was. I just don't think you could sell him on even an even smaller role than what he already had this year. That's kind of the only thing. Like, he wants to win the championship, but I think he also wants to contribute towards the championship as much as he can. And I mean, me personally, if I was on a team and I played 10 games and got a ring, I'm not going to feel the same way as if I played 40, 50,
it's different.
60.
And it's way different when you're a borderline, or maybe he is just a straight up Hall of Famer, right? So it's a different mentality that you've had in your career. I mean, this guy was in the MVP conversation for 8 years or so of his career, and was a bona fide all-star, all-NBA guy. So it's definitely a different mentality.
Sorry, I'm trying to nudge the dog because he's snoring as I'm trying to record as well.
King Henry's not. It's funny. I showed my girl a picture of your dog, and she used to have a oh my god, I'm blanking on what type of dog she used to have right now. She's gonna kill me if she hears this. A Shar-Pei. And so Shar-Pei is very similar to the dog you have, in the sense that, like, they have like kind of breathing problems, like, but they're so cute and scrunchy, and they got all the ruffles. So she was melting, but she was like, that looks like a dog that might have some medical problems.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully not. He's already costing me money with vet bills from time to time. Back to it though. Look, I'm all down for bringing in Blake. I think that he has proven over time that he can be a valuable weapon from the perimeter as well. We saw that in kind of spurts throughout the season where he would just knock down a couple of threes. I think there was one game, I'm blanking on who it was
Philly.
against, and Blake just came in and changed.
Yeah, he hit 5-6 threes. That was one of those games against Philly where it was basically the hospital seas, right? And it was Blake Griffin hitting 5 or 6 threes. I'll have to see if I can find it here while you're talking. But yeah, it was 100% a game against Philly in Boston.
And this is what I'm saying, right? He earned that veteran minimum deal from that one game, and you're not going to get that type of performance off Blake every game. You might only get one of those a season, the same as you did last year. But when you're trying to win the mental advantage, get that mental kind of hold on a team, especially a team like Philly that just lose to you every year, and Embiid's damn near ready to throw in the towel on his time with the franchise because he needs to go to a team that just doesn't naturally lose to Boston. Having a guy like Blake that comes in and plays hard, understands the value of winning those little matchups, winning those mid-season games, and how that can take a toll further down the line, that's invaluable, man. For a vet minimum deal, I'd be all the way in. I just don't know whether he would want to come back now that Porzingis is in the fold. That big man rotation is quite deep already. I'm not sure whether it.
The tough part is, and by the way, I looked it up here. It was against Philly on February 8th, 5 of 8. Followed that up with a 3 of 6 game against Milwaukee a few days later. So real hot streak for Blake Griffin from downtown during those couple of days. But I think the thing for Blake is, like, where he's at in his career. And obviously, I think, once again, to be a Hall of Fame level guy and to take that mentorship end of the bench role, like, it takes a certain level of humility, right? And it takes a certain level of adaptability. We saw guys like Allen Iverson couldn't do it. Russell Westbrook has struggled to do it. Maybe he's found a new role with the Clippers, but I think for Blake, and his is a lot of injury related, right? Of the reasons why he is where he is in his career. But I think when you look out west, like, I mean, if he wants to be near family, hey, I get it, man. Go do your thing. Like, I think most of his family has stayed out west, even while he's been in Detroit, Brooklyn, Boston. They've been out west. So I get that if you want to end your career going back out west. But I don't know if any of the quote unquote championship contenders that I would see out west are really going to have much more of a role. So I think in that respect, if we're looking at role versus role, unless there's a team I'm missing, I don't know if there's one that you look at and say, there's a team that he's going to play 65 games this year and get, 10, 12, 15 minutes a game. I don't know if that exists for Blake Griffin anymore. And so I think, if it's about playing time, I think Boston's in a very good position. But if it comes down to, I want to be on the West Coast, I want to be near family, it is what it is. And it may be sayonara for Blake Griffin.
Yeah, the only team that comes to mind for me due to their lack of size over their entire roster would be the Warriors. I think the Warriors could be a space where Blake could come in and get legitimate minutes. Obviously, you've got Dario Saric is there, Trace Jackson-Davis is there. Both of those guys are around that 6'10" mark. Blake could come in with his 3-point shooting abilities, screening, and probably play a legitimate role in more games than what he played in Boston.
You trying to reunite Lob City?
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind.
I had a feeling it didn't, but
I'm down. What I will say as well is, like, the only downside to that is signing a veteran minimum deal with Golden State. Really, in the grand scheme of things, means you're paying money to play there because it's just so expensive to live there. A vet minimum deal probably qualifies you for government housing in San Francisco.
I think Blake's going to be okay. I'm not super worried about Blake playing on the minimum. He's made plenty of money in his NBA career. So I think,
San Francisco money, though.
Let's play it here. I have it pulled up here. How much money do you think Blake Griffin has made in his NBA career?
I'm going to say like 120 mil.
Keep going.
180 mil.
Keep going.
375 mil.
Okay, now we've got a little bit too far. He's not in the new NBA. That's going to be the Jaylen Brown. That's the Jaylen Brown money right there. But
on one deal,
I know he's made 260 million, which like to your point, that's a lot of money, and that's putting Jaylen Brown's new deal in a whole other light. This is a Hall of Fame, 13-year career for Blake Griffin that we're looking at here. And he's still under Jaylen Brown's next 4 years.
That's like
holy crap. That just blew my mind to think about. Blake Griffin has played a 13-year NBA career, made $260 million, and Jaylen Brown just signed a 4-year deal that's going to give him about $50 million, almost more than what Blake Griffin made.
It's fucking sickening, dude. I will say this as well. Let me just point this out. Blake Griffin's career earnings are like a tech company CEO's yearly bonus in San Francisco. It's so expensive, dude.
It's expensive, man. But that's, I mean, shit, dude. Boston ain't winning that conversation either. Boston's just as expensive as San Francisco. So
which is bullshit, right? Because one place is warm and sunny, and the other place is cold and wet.
I know. Believe me, man. I live in Austin, so it doesn't make any sense to me. I got the hell out of there where it's cold, so it don't make no sense to me. But
the Warriors are the only team I could see that logistically, theoretically, in terms of playing style and playing time, actually makes sense as a potential landing spot for Blake outside of Boston.
Yeah, I could see Blake just kind of holding out and seeing how everything plays out too, right? An injury pops up, boom, another opportunity kind of.
Or it just goes to Taiwan, teams up with Dwight Howard and wins like 50 championships.
Come on, man. Don't wish that on my guy. Do not wish that on my guy. I don't want Blake out there with him. Blake, don't do it, man. Don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do that. But that's going to do it for this episode of Green with the MV Quick Hits. As always, we appreciate y'all for checking in with us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you are following us across all of our social medias and our audio feeds for the podcast. As always, this is Will Weir signing off. My guy, Adam Taylor. Always a pleasure.
Yo, so if Dwight Howard and Blake Griffin teamed up, there'd be the Airbus One boys, because that's what you call the big planes, and the Airbuses. Peace, everybody.
We'll see if we can get that to